this is Joan-Marie Domino and welcome to my channel. I have a really fun project for you today, a DIY decoupage. I'm going to be showing you how to do a canvas bag. Now, I did a canvas bag already. I'm going to show it to you. This is the one that I made and it was so popular, but then I kept getting a request from you and you're like, Joan, can you do these bags on both sides? Look how pretty it is. That looks like it's almost hand painted. Well, you can do both sides and I'm going to show you how to do it in this video. I'm going to give you my best techniques, my best tips, so that, beginners, you're going to be able to do this too. And you know what's great about these little bags? I'm going to show you how to make them so that you can use them as well. So they're not just pretty, but they're usable. And this would make a great gift to give to your mother, a grandmother, a sister. We've got lots to do. Let's get started. We're ready to put the napkin on. Make sure you have some paper down to keep a nice clean surface because that is a white bag. Here's the napkin I chose. I'm going to put the little bird on the front. And then on the other side, I'm going to do the little flower garden. I really like the way that looked. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take something plastic. Whenever you're doing the deckled edge, you're going to be using water. So always best to be on something plastic. This is my water brush. It has a brush on one end, water in the little tube, water filters from the tube into the brush, and I don't have to keep dipping a brush into water. And what I'm doing is I'm tracing around the image that I want, and in this case, I'm doing the top part, which is going to go on the front side of the bag. So I'm using the water to tear at the napkin because I don't want any straight edges. Straight edges will be very, very obvious once we put this down. So I want a nice jagged or deckled edge so it will blend into the bag. Okay, now before we put the birdie on, look how good that looks. It's going to be so cute. I want to protect the bag. And what I mean by protecting is I have to keep one side from not sticking to the other. So I took a piece of cardstock just like that. And this is baking parchment, which I folded around the cardstock. I used paper clips to hold it together. It just makes it so much easier to get in and out of the bag. And it is kind of a tight fit, but that's also very important because, again, you're protecting the one side of the bag from the other, or else the glue is just going to go through. And what you're going to have is a bag that's completely unusable, so you have to keep the surface nice and clean. And we don't want that to happen. Okay, so take the clips off. It's better to do it without the clips because we are going to be using the iron-on, so we don't want the clips there. All right, so here's the napkin again, but I have to separate it. I tried something a little different. Normally I separate the napkin first and then do the deco. I decided to try it another way. I saw some other crafters doing it. I thought, oh, let me give it a try. So I'm removing the back plies and I'm only using the top printed ply, and I'm kind of lining it up where I want. It looks very, very pretty. You can see the deckled edge there, but that's going to disappear. All right, so now I'm going to take my Mod Podge, and remember, nice, clean surface, very, very important. Make sure there's no fuzz or lint on that bag too. I'm using a nice, wide, soft brush. I'm using fabric Mod Podge. It's thicker than regular Mod Podge, but it works so well with fabric. I love it. So I'm going to put it on, and I'm going to say fairly generous all over the top and all over the bottom, all over the entire bag, okay? Because I want to have the whole surface covered. Now I'm working kind of quick because I don't want the glue to dry before I have a chance to put my little birdie on. So I'm going to line it up where I want, make sure the little butterfly's hanging off, okay? And I'm just going to smooth it with my fingers just like that. But I am going to go ahead and use my saran wrap just to smooth it down a little bit more. Make sure that it's well adhered. I'm using my fingers. I also like using a piece of wadded up napkin. Alrighty, let's remove the saran wrap carefully. And let's take a look. Look how nice that is. It came out so good. So we want to let that dry. And once it's dry, we're going to set it even more with our iron. I use a Cricut iron. It has 3 different settings. You turn that on, you turn it off. I'm using the highest setting. Okay. The bag is all dried and now I'm ready to do the iron on. I'm going to be doing it 2 times. This is the iron I use, a little Cricut iron, and I'm going to go over the whole front of the bag. I want to make sure that the napkin is well adhered. It is melting the glue a little bit, but that's what I wanted to do. Okay, let it cool a little bit and then we can take off the parchment paper. It's baking parchment. and we can take a look at it. Looks very, very nice. All right, so once it cools off, we're going to go ahead and put a top coat of the fabric Mod Podge. Here it is, and that's going to be like the coat that's really going to protect the napkin, okay? Still a little bit sticky, but that's okay. We can still go ahead and put a coat of fabric Mod Podge right on top. So I'm going to get my brush again, and I'm going to go over the whole bag. What has the napkin on it, what doesn't have the napkin, it doesn't matter. I'm going to cover the entire front of the bag. Not quite as generous as I was when I put the napkin down, so you don't have to use quite as much glue. Just make sure it's nice and smooth and even. Let's let it dry. There's the iron. The iron is ready to go. I use the Cricut. All right, it's all dried, and now we're ready to iron again, and that's my baking parchment. My baking parchment is protecting the iron, it's protecting the bag. I mean, without the baking parchment, it would really be a mess. All right, so I'm again ironing over the whole bag, and I'm setting and I'm sealing the fabric Mod Podge. Let's take a look. There you go. I want to hold it up. Take a look. Do you see any of the edges of the bag? I don't. Now it's time to do the other side, and I have a piece of baking parchment I'm putting underneath it because the other side is still kind of sticky, so I just want to make sure it's protected and it's not going to stick to the tissue paper, which I'm working on. So I separated the napkin for the bottom part. That's my little flower garden because we only use the top printed layer, and I am lining up that bottom edge with the bottom of the bag. I really like the way that looked. And again, I'm back with the fabric Mod Podge. This time when I put the Mod Podge on, I'm not going to do the entire bag, not the first time. I'm only going to put where the napkin is actually going to lay down. And remember, I am using a fairly generous amount initially just to put the napkin down. Okay, now I'm ready to put on the beautiful little flower garden. I'm going to line up the bottom. And once I have it lined up, that looks good, I'm going to smooth it out with my fingers. But then again, I am going to take my saran wrap, put it on top. That's to protect the napkin. I have a little wadded up piece of napkin from, those back layers. Good to use them for something. I'm just going to go over it really well so that it's well adhered to the bag. Smooths it out, any wrinkles, any of the little perforations, everything disappears when you do that. Okay? Let's take the plastic off nice and carefully, and let's have a look at it. Oh, it looks really nice. Okay, now we're going to wait for that to dry. Look how pretty that is. And then we're going to do the same thing with the back as we did in the front. We just want to make sure that it's dry. Then we're going to do the iron on. All right, the side with the little flower garden is now dry, and we're ready to do the iron on once again. That is baking parchment I'm putting on top to protect the napkin and the iron. There's my iron, it's a Cricut iron, and I'm going to go over the whole thing. And again, this is setting the napkin. It's like the first coat of Mod Podge sets the napkin. Let's take a look. I'm going to hold it up. It is kind of hot. Look how pretty. I love that garden. It looks so cute on that bag. Okay, once it cools, we're going to then put a top layer of Mod Podge on. And again, this is the fabric Mod Podge, just so you remember. See, fabric. This is our protective cover, just like we did, protective coating, just like we did the other side. But this time, I'm not just going to do where the napkin is placed, that little piece on the bottom. I'm actually going to do the entire bag because I want to protect it. So this is like my protective layer. All right, and just make sure it's nice and smooth. And we're going to let that dry. Okay, that protective layer is all dry, and I'm ready to once again use my iron to set the glue, the fabric glue. So I have my piece of baking parchment that goes all the way around the bag. I forgot to tell you, I hope you noticed, that is to protect both sides, and I'm going over the whole bag so that that glue melts right into that canvas. Okay, I'm going to peel it off. Let's take a look. Oh, I love it. It's coming out so good. It is a little bit sticky. Okay, now to get rid of this sticky, because it will take a few weeks, I decided that I was going to put a topping on it of Duraclear. Duraclear is a water-based sealant. I'm going to show it to you. There it is. And that's really good, and it's going to remain flexible, and it's going to get rid of some of the sticky. I'm using the matte version as opposed to the glossy, but I have to say, when you put it on the bag, I don't know if it's because of the fabric Mod Podge, still has a little bit of a shine. This is very thin, so I'm just going to go over the whole front of the bag. And I want to make sure I cover everything because if this does get dirty, I want to be able to wipe it off. So I'm just going to go around and check just to make sure all of the canvas is covered. And then I'm going to let it dry. And once it's dry, I'm going to do the other side. My little bag is all done. The Duraclear is dry, and I want you to take a look at this. I'm not worried about this being damaged or getting cracks in it because I used fabric Mod Podge and the Duraclear. That means they're very, very usable. And if you want, you can customize them even more. I want you to see what I did with this bag. I actually added some tassels, and you know what? Those are earrings, just to give it a little bit more customized look. So remember, go through your stash and see what you have, and you can make it as customizable as you want. And don't forget, if you follow my tips and my techniques, you're going to be able to use these bags, and you can give them as gifts as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm going to see you again soon.